The music thumped through the floorboards as I carried another tray of appetizers out from the kitchen. Everyone was laughing, glasses clinking, fairy lights I'd strung across the ceiling earlier that afternoon casting soft golden pools over the living room. I'd spent 3 straight days preparing for this, Emma's 32nd birthday party. She'd been dropping hints for weeks about wanting something elegant but fun, so I rented high-top tables, hired a jazz trio for the first couple hours, and even tracked down the exact bottle of Pinot Noir she'd mentioned loving on our trip to Oregon 2 summers ago. I set the tray down beside the charcuterie board and caught her eye across the room. She was radiant in the emerald dress I'd surprised her with last week, head thrown back mid-laugh while talking to her college roommate, Claire. When our gazes met, she gave me that small, private smile, the one that still made my chest tighten after 4 years, and mouthed, "Thank you." I nodded, feeling the familiar warmth of knowing I'd gotten it right. Around 11, the energy shifted subtly. The jazz musicians packed up, someone switched the playlist to something louder, and more people spilled onto the makeshift dance floor we'd cleared in front of the television. I was wiping condensation off wine bottles in the kitchen when the front door opened again. Daniel walked in. He wore the same leather jacket he'd had when they dated in grad school, hair a little longer now, still effortlessly messy. I recognized him instantly from the handful of photos Emma kept in an old hard drive folder labeled college. I hadn't invited him. No one had mentioned he'd be coming. He scanned the room, spotted Emma, and raised a hand in greeting. She froze for half a second, barely noticeable unless you knew her the way I did, then broke into a wide smile and crossed the room to hug him. I watched from the doorway, dish towel still in my hand. "Hey, stranger," she said, voice bright enough to carry. "You actually made it. Wouldn't miss it?" Daniel replied, holding the hug a beat longer than necessary before stepping back and looking around. "Place looks amazing. You two went all out." I walked over then, extending my hand. "Daniel, right? I'm Ethan." He shook it firmly, smile easy. "Good to finally meet the guy who locked Emma down." The words landed oddly, but I let it slide. "Glad you could come. Can I get you a drink?" "I'm good for now, thanks." His attention drifted back to Emma. "Mind if I steal the birthday girl for a quick catch-up?" She glanced at me, then back at him. "Sure. Just don't let him talk you into any terrible old stories. Okay?" They moved toward the corner near the bookshelves. I busied myself collecting empty glasses, telling myself it was normal. Exes can stay friends. People grow up. I repeated the mantra while I rinsed plates and stacked them in the dishwasher. But when I came back out 20 minutes later, they were still there, heads bent close, her hand resting lightly on his forearm while she talked animatedly. Every few seconds she'd laugh, that full, unguarded laugh I used to hear more often at home. I felt eyes on me from a few of our mutual friends. No one said anything, but the glances were enough that I approached casually, sliding an arm around Emma's waist. "Everything good over here?" She tensed, just a flicker, then relaxed again. "Yeah, babe. Daniel was just telling me about his latest project in Lisbon. Sounds incredible." Daniel gave me a polite nod. "You should see the shots. The light there is unreal." I smiled, thin. "I'll take your word for it. I'm more of a stay-in-the-country guy." Emma's laugh was quick, almost sharp. "That's an understatement." The words stung more than they should have. I let my arm drop. A little while later I found her in the hallway near the guest bathroom, alone for the first time all night. I stepped close. "Hey, you having fun?" Her smile was smaller now, distracted. "Yeah, it's great. Everyone's having a blast." I lowered my voice. "You sure? You seem different since Daniel got here." She sighed, crossing her arms. "Ethan, don't start. He's just an old friend. We haven't seen each other in years." "I'm not starting anything. I'm just saying it feels like the whole vibe changed when he walked in." She looked past me toward the living room where Daniel was now talking to Claire. "You're reading into it." He showed up as a surprise. I didn't even know he was coming to town until yesterday. You didn't think to mention it? I didn't think I had to. Her tone sharpened. This is my birthday. I shouldn't have to clear my guest list with you. I exhaled slowly. I'm not asking for a veto. I'm asking why it feels like I'm suddenly the third wheel in my own apartment. Her eyes narrowed. That's dramatic. Maybe. But I'm not imagining the way you light up when he's around. She stared at me for a long moment, then shook her head. You know what? Daniel mentioned earlier that it's awkward having you hovering all night. He said it makes him uncomfortable trying to have a normal conversation with me. The sentence landed like cold water. I blinked. He said that. Yes, and honestly, I kind of agree. You've been watching us like a security camera all evening. It's my party, Ethan. Can you just give us a little space? Go hang out in the office or something for a bit. It'll be fine. I stood there, pulse loud in my ears. You're asking me to leave my own living room so your ex feels more comfortable. I'm asking you to stop making everything about your insecurity for 1 hour. 1 hour. Is that really so hard? People were starting to glance over. The music felt suddenly too loud that I looked at her. At the woman I'd spent 4 years building a quiet, steady life with, and felt something shift inside my chest. Not anger exactly, more like clarity. Cold, clean clarity. Okay, I said quietly, her eyebrows lifted. Okay. Yeah, okay. I walked past her, grabbed my keys and wallet from the console table, slipped on my jacket, and left. The hallway outside was silent except for the muffled bass leaking through the door. I took the stairs down instead of the elevator, needing the movement. Outside, the November air bit my face. I walked 3 blocks to the 24-hour diner on Maple, the one with the cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like it was brewed last Tuesday. I sat in the back corner, ordered black coffee, and stared at the steam curling up until it disappeared. She didn't text. Not once. Around 2 in the morning, I paid the bill and walked home. The party had ended. The apartment smelled like spilled wine, perfume, and the last traces of warm food. Balloons sagged against the walls. Empty bottles stood like soldiers on every surface. A single paper plate with half a slice of cake sat abandoned on the coffee table. I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. I started in the bedroom. Her side of the closet was easy to identify. Bright colors, silk blouses, the leather jacket she wore when she wanted to feel powerful. I pulled her large rolling suitcase from under the bed, the same one we'd taken to Montreal 3 years ago. I folded everything neatly. Dresses, jeans, shoes, the scarf I'd bought her in Chicago. The jewelry box went in last, along with the small ceramic vase she kept on her nightstand that held dried lavender. From the bathroom, I gathered her skincare, her hair tools, the expensive serums she swore by. From the office nook, I packed her laptop stand, her favorite notebooks, the external hard drive full of her freelance design work. When the suitcases were full, I carried them to the hallway outside our door and lined them up against the wall. I wrote one line on a plain white index card. Now no one has to feel uncomfortable. That I taped it to the largest suitcase. Then I called the 24-hour locksmith. He arrived just after 3. Older guy, quiet, didn't ask unnecessary questions. New deadbolt and handle set, rekeyed, done in 40 minutes. While he worked, I sat on the couch and quietly changed the Wi-Fi password, the streaming accounts, the utility logins, anything joint that could be switched without drama. By for the place was mine again. That I slept on the sofa that night, still in my party clothes. The next morning I woke before dawn, made coffee, and sat in the quiet. My phone had 3 texts from friends asking if I was okay. Nothing from Emma. I showered, dressed for the day, and went to work like always. Mid-afternoon, I got a call from the front desk. Mr. Callahan, there's a woman here saying she lives in 14B. She's pretty upset. Says she can't get in. Tell her the locks have been changed, I said calmly. Her belongings are in the hallway. She can take them whenever she wants. Silence on the other end. Then, okay, I'll let her know. She didn't come that day. Or the next. On the third day, she showed up at my office building. Security called me down. She stood in the lobby wearing yesterday's clothes, hair pulled back messily, eyes red. "Ethan," she said when I reached her. "This is insane. You can't just lock me out of my home. It's not your home anymore. We live together. We have a life. You don't get to decide. You decided," I said, voice low but steady. "The night of your party. You told me to leave so your ex could be comfortable. I did. Now I'm comfortable." Her mouth opened, closed. "I was drinking. It was a stupid moment. I didn't mean." "You meant every word. And you didn't call or text once after I left. That told me everything I needed to know." She took a step closer. "Daniel and it was just nostalgia. He's gone now. It was a mistake." I looked at her, really looked, and felt only calm distance. "Then you should have no trouble moving on." I turned and walked back toward the elevators. She called after me, voice cracking. "Ethan, please." I didn't stop. The weeks that followed were quiet in a way I hadn't experienced in years. I rearranged the apartment, moved the couch, bought new pillows, donated the throw blanket we'd argued over at the store. I started running in the mornings before work. I ate dinner alone at the table and didn't feel lonely, just separate. She tried a few more times. Voicemails that grew increasingly desperate. A long email explaining how stressed she'd been, how Daniel had manipulated the situation, how she now realized what she'd almost thrown away. I read the first paragraph, then deleted it unread. Mutual friends tried to mediate. "She's really torn up, man. Maybe hear her out." I thanked them politely and changed the subject. Daniel apparently had already moved on to someone new in Berlin. Emma found out through Instagram. The photos were public. She spiraled, missed deadlines, lost 2 major clients. Last I heard through a friend of a friend, she'd moved back in with her parents an hour outside the city. The freelance career she'd spent years building had collapsed under the weight of everything else that I didn't celebrate. I didn't keep tabs. I just kept moving forward. 6 months later, I was at a gallery opening downtown, work obligation mostly. I ran into a woman named Mara who'd done the lighting design for the space. She was funny, dry, unflinching. We talked for 20 minutes about terrible gallery wine and pretentious artist statements. When the event ended, she asked if I wanted to grab real coffee sometime. That I said yes. 3 months after that, we were spending weekends together. She met my friends. They liked her. She liked my apartment. She never once asked me to leave the room so someone else could be comfortable. A year to the day after Emma's birthday party, Mara and I stood in the kitchen while snow fell outside the window. She was making soup from scratch and I was reading a terrible true crime paperback at the counter. She glanced over. "You're quiet tonight." I closed the book. Just thinking about how strange it is to feel this normal, this good. She smiled, small and knowing. "You deserve normal, Ethan." I crossed the kitchen, kissed her temple and went back to my book. Outside, the city kept moving. Somewhere in it, Emma was living whatever life she'd built from the pieces she had left. But that wasn't my story anymore. And for the first time in a long time, the silence felt like peace.